we will have the troop leader, Trevor, to help us present the colors. And thereafter, he's also going to help us to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trevor. Now I will ask Ms. Claire Sparrow to lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the balls bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, I'll now have Sophia Schneider to come and lead us in a prayer. And thank you so much, Claire.
Dear Lord, today we honor our veterans, worthy men and women, who gave their best when they were called upon to serve and protect their country. We pray that you will bless them for their unselfish service in the continual struggle to preserve our freedoms, our safety, and our country's heritage for all of us.
Amen. All right. So I think we can be seated right now. I might go off script a little bit, just so my personality can come through. So you will bear with me a little bit. But yes, my name is Susan Wilkinson, and it is my honor and privilege to be your Master of Ceremonies for this special event. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for the service you have rendered to this beautiful country, and we don't take that for granted. And amongst us, there are a number of guests, special guests, that made time today to honor the veterans. As I call your name, please stand up briefly, say hello, and so that you can be recognized, okay? How about that? All right, so we have the town administrator, Miss Denise Demboski. There she is. Round of applause for Miss Denise, please. I've had the privilege of working with Miss Denise when we had the veterans lunches, the drive-through, and she's an amazing human. She's a go-getter, she takes care of things, so if you ever need anything, right there. And Mr. Michael Selesi, the Stow Police Chief. By the way, if I butcher your name, please just hang in there with me, okay? The Honorable Kate Hogan, the state representative. I don't think she's here yet, but we will reintroduce her when she comes in. And the Honorable Jamie Eldridge, our state rep. And of course, our keynote speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Rosario M.F. Rizzo. Thank you, sir, for accepting to be the keynote speaker. And again, I think as we can see, the Boy Scout troop is ready to serve. So are we ready over there? Thumbs up? Good. All right, so I will ask that we allow the veterans to be the first ones in line to get breakfast. And also, we also want to thank Pleasant Cafe that did the honors of preparing this delicious meal. If a veteran needs assistance, please ask around. We have several people standing to be at your service. And I will also ask the Scouts or Nashoba Interact students to also help out. So please enjoy breakfast. How is the breakfast? Good, good. So as we continue the fellowship, absolutely, I will invite Bobby Brosetta of Troop 1 to come forward and read the veterans' poem.
Men, women, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, we still live today because of your service. We will support you when you are helpless. For all you've done, we will see the sun rise. We support each other so we will survive.
Thank you, Bobby. It is. There you go. You just beat me to it. I was about to ask you to give him a round of applause, but you beat me to it. So thank you for that. It's now time to recognize all the veterans here today. And beside the name tags that have been provided, I would also like for you to stand up when your name is actually mentioned, if at all possible. And we're gonna call your service in terms of the branches. And a small token of your service scouts from Troop 1 would like to present to you a veteran's coin. So Troop 1, let me know when you're ready. Okay. All right, so the first branch of the military is the Army. So if you know you served in the Army, could you please stand up? And if you're not able to stand up, you can just raise your hand. Please let me know when you're done. Are we done with Army? Good. All right, the next branch. And the next branch is the Air Force. Can we give a round of applause to the Air Force? The next branch is the Coast Guard. If you can't stand up, absolutely. Thank you for your service. And the next branch is the Navy. Go Navy! Thank you. And the next branch is the Marines. Okay, a round of applause for the Marines. And finally, the National Guard. If you're in the National Guard, please stand up or raise your hand. And thank you to Troop 1. Can we please give a huge round of applause to Troop 1? Again, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you and we honor you. I think at this juncture, I will call upon Ms. Rita Di Stefano, French, to come and please present the Quilts of Valor presentation. Lead the Quilts of Valor presentation, rather. Thank you, Rita.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I represent the national organization, Quilts of Valor Foundation, which is a charitable organization started back in 2003. We're now in year 21. And in 21 years, as of October 31st of last week, 2 weeks ago, we have presented nationwide 400,903 quilts. Were awarded to active service and veterans, so we thank you. It is our pleasure to be able to award quilts. I see many familiar faces from last year when we did our first presentation, which kind of surprised us. We turned it into like an Oprah Winfrey, you get a car and you get a car. And before you knew it, we were crowded and blessed to see all of you up there getting your quilts. However, we didn't get to know very much about you. This year, we're doing things a little differently. So if you did not receive a quilt last year or this year, please make sure that you reach out to us at the end, because I have nomination forms. Or if you know someone who is a veteran or active service, we would love and be blessed to award them one as well. So today, like I said, we're going to be presenting just a few, so you get to know who they are, and a little bit more about Quilts of Valor. I will have Deb Woods come and read a poem, and then followed by Carol Dunlap, and then we will award this year's quilts. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and it is by far an honor and a privilege to be here, so thank you. It is the veteran. It is the veteran, not the preacher, who has given us the freedom of religion. It is the veteran, not the reporter, who has given us the freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the poet, who has given us the freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to assemble and the right to demonstrate. It is the veteran, not the police, who has given us the right to be secure in our persons. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the veteran who salutes the flag. It is the veteran who serves under the flag. It is the veteran who gave his oath, or her oath, to support and defend the Constitution of our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It is the veteran willing to give their life to protect your freedoms and mine, whose casket will be covered by a flag. May God bless all our veterans. Thank you.
This is a Quilt of Valor poem written by Mary Welch, who was the founder of Quilts of Valor. A few pieces of cloth from people who care to honor your service, it only seems fair. Carefully chosen materials of red, white, and blue, sewn together for those patriotic and true. A top pieced together with caring and pride, then quilted with backing and warm layer inside. Every stitch and seam sewn from the very start, with appreciation and gratitude straight from the heart. For you who have sacrificed, for those here at home, may this quilt warm and comfort you wherever you roam. Our hope with this quilt is to make sure you know we appreciate all you've done and all you've been through. So that's a Quilt of Valor poem. So, thank you. Now, okay. As we present these quilts, I have the names here and I will call them. As we present these quilts, we are now officially the Nashoba Stars and Stripes Quilt of Valor portion of the national group. So we're now joined. The first quilt we're presenting is to Barry Decker. Unfortunately, he had to leave to go to work. It's a work day for him. He was in the Army, and we've talked with him already, and we actually wrapped his quilt around him already. So, oh, wait a minute. No. Barry, are you here? No, you just look like him. Okay. Sorry. I thought you were here. Okay. Anyway, so can you? Oh, you can't hear me. Oh, I'm not used to microphones. I was a teacher. I didn't have a microphone. Okay. Should I repeat that then? Okay. The first quilt we actually presented earlier, and to Barry Decker, who was an Army veteran, but he had to leave for work. So we congratulate Barry on doing his job for his country and for all of us. The second quilt, the person is here. He's our Stow Veterans Agent, Joe Jacobs. Would Joe come up, please? Joe was Army and then National Guard. Okay, if you could come up, unless you want to speak. And it's customary for us to wrap the quilt around the veteran.
Rita jumped on me and said, just say yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Joe, for your service.
Joe, can I jump in again? Sure. To say a few words about your service?
I'll give you the microphone.
I didn't have that long a service, and I was in the Mass National Guard, but I did 21 years. And I started off as a tank commander, trained at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and they decided to make me the mess sergeant. And I stayed, they convinced me to stay 1 year because the mess sergeant was retiring. They were really stuck. That turned into 15 years. And I retired from the 181 Infantry, which is the 181 Regiment now in Worcester, who is deployed in the Middle East right now. So don't tell me, if they tell you people, units aren't deployed, we have units in this country that are deployed. These guys know it. Thank you very much for this. I gotta leave shortly. I'm gonna be Master of Ceremonies of the parade in Hudson, so I'm gonna have to keep talking, but thank you, everybody. I have a great group of veterans, and we get together once a month, and we talk. Thank you.
Our next veteran is Philip Mosley. Philip was in the Coast Guard. Would you come up and receive your quilt? Phil, would you like to say some words?
Obviously, not too many in the Coast Guard here. I miss Jim Sauter, who was a valiant Coast Guardsman from Stow. Did many good things for Stow. And I hope that I did many good things for the Coast Guard. I made sure everybody got paid on time. That was important. Everybody got fed on time. And so we all had our roles to perform in different ways, and I hope we did it well. Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Okay, our next recipient is April Treffry, and April was in the Navy.
So as you'll notice, all of the quilts are handmade. We have a group here in Stow of about 6, 7 active women who get together a minimum of twice a week to work on several projects, and one of them is Quilts of Valor. We follow national guidelines of using high-quality cotton quilt fabric to make them. They are professionally finished by one of our quilters, Lonnie, who is also a Stow resident. And yeah, they're beautiful. April, did you want to sing? Okay. I keep talking. So, thank you. A quilt can cost anywhere from $250 to $500 to make. Again, we're a charitable organization, so we rely on donations. These are awarded. There is never a fee for anyone to nominate someone or for someone to be awarded one. So we want everyone to speak out, because 400,000 seems like a lot of quilts, but there are many more veterans than that. And everyone who signed up, who enlisted, is deserving of one of these quilts.
Thanks, Rita. Okay. Our final presentation today is to Susan Stevens, who was in the Army as a career. She's a career veteran from 1978 to 2004. Susan, would you like to say something?
So it's been a great career, and I would never change a thing. I started out in 1978. I went to Rotary, and I became retired a lieutenant colonel. And my favorite tour was in Korea. I was 21 years old, and I was touring the whole country. And like I said, I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it all again, over again, if I had the chance. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Susan. Thank you. That was our last presentation for today. So, as Rita said, please, if you know a veteran, if you are a veteran and you haven't received a quilt, please let us know. Let Rita know.
And active service.
And active service also. Not just veterans, but active service. Future veterans. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita, and everyone else who works on the quilts. This is such a moving moment, and thank you so much. As we were giving out the quilts, our Honorable Representative Kate Hogan arrived, and at this time, I would like to thank both Honorable Kate Hogan as well as Senator Jamie Eldridge. And it is my pleasure, actually, to have Honorable Kate Hogan to come and speak to us.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here today, always honored, and I am taking a moment of personal privilege with the okay of the Nashoba Rotary to award a resolution to a young man, one John Paul J.P. Benoit. And what we'd like to do is honor him for his 38 years of service to the Town of Stow with the Massachusetts House of Representatives resolution. There are many whereas. I will not get in it today due to it being Veterans Day, but trust me, this man has served and served and served his community, including being a big part of this event today, and has participated over the years with the Boy Scouts and has an incredible line of service in the fire department. So if you could please help me to thank and recognize John Paul Benoit for his 38 years of service to the Town of Stow. Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to be here at our annual Veterans Day breakfast to thank and honor our veterans for their service to our country. Organized by the Nashoba Rotary, Troop 1 Scouts, the Rotarians, Catherine Hamill, Christine Mudgett, Susan Wilkinson, all the Rotary and Interact volunteers, thank you. Retired Fire Chief and Scout Leader J.P. Benoit has also had something to do with it, as well as a Town Administrator Denise Demkowski, local Stow officials, select board members. I'm not sure who is here, but they are J.T. Toole, Ingeborg Hengeman, Clark, Hector Constanzos, Cortina Fresha, and Megan Birch McMichael. Thank you all for being here, and also our keynote speaker, Stow resident and retired Lieutenant Colonel Rosario Rizzo. Thank you all for being here. So today we gather to honor the brave men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces. Veterans Day is certainly a moment to reflect on their sacrifice and to express our deepest gratitude for their commitment to protecting our freedoms. Whether veterans served at home or abroad, they courageously stood up for our ideals and stood ready to protect our nation and our allies. Their service and sacrifice remind us of the high stakes involved in maintaining peace and security. Today, we also confront challenges here at home. Our country is experiencing significant divisions. These divisions can sometimes overshadow our common purpose as a nation and threaten the unity that is vital for our strength as a nation. The stakes are high. When we are divided, we weaken our ability to address the critical issues that affect all Americans, including our veterans. In times like these, it is essential that we come together to support policies that ensure our veterans receive the health care, education, and job opportunities that they need and deserve. And I'm proud to represent a state that invests in our veterans. This Commonwealth leads the nation in the quality of services and benefits offered. This year, the legislature passed and Governor Healy signed an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members, the HEROES Act, the most important veteran bills that have been passed by the state in 20 years. It demonstrates our commitment to you, our veterans. It includes spending and policy initiatives, tax and housing credits, expanded benefits, modernizes services, and attempts to increase greater representation in our ranks. Please reach out to each and every one of our offices if you are looking to better understand what those benefits might be. We're very proud of them, and I'm proud to represent a state that leads a nation in the quality of service and benefits offered. Thank you to all our veterans present today. Your bravery and dedication truly inspire all of us. And on every Veterans Day, let us reflect on what has been given, what has been protected, and what has been sacrificed by each generation of America's service members. From the American Civil War to the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam, to the Gulf War, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and the global war on terror. Will it ever end? And as they have been willing to invest in our future, let us be willing to invest in theirs. And let us never forget why it is appropriate to do so. Let us commit to an America worthy of the sacrifice and service of our veterans. And may liberty, justice, freedom, and equality always be our greatest exports. Never forget, never break faith. God bless Stowe, God bless our Commonwealth, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you so much, Representative Hogan. And just a little bit about JP. I don't know of someone who is more deserving than you. JP is the kind of person who will find you in the community and remember who you are. I was pumping gas at BJ's one day, and next thing I know is someone calling me out, and I could not place his face, and he came over, introduced himself, and we reconnected. So thank you. It's small acts like that that really make the man that you are. So thank you for that. It is also my pleasure to recognize and also introduce our next speaker, Senator Jamie Eldridge, to please come forward and say a word.
Well, good morning, everyone. I want to echo Susan's words and Representative Hogan's wonderful recognition for JP. So thank you so much, JP, and terrific to be here for Stow's Veterans Day celebration. I am looking forward to a number of Veterans Day commemorations today, but I have to say this is just one of the most thoughtful Veterans Day celebrations I go to. The quilts for veterans, how much care the Boy Scouts put into providing breakfast for everyone, and thank you so much to the Rotary Club of Nashoba Valley for all the thought that you put into to this event. Good morning and happy Veterans Day. I'm honored to stand here with all of you and have the opportunity to pay tribute to our veterans who have so selflessly volunteered to serve and protect our great nation. Their demonstrations of bravery and integrity are true pillars of the American ideal. Today we thank you all for your service and remember your courage. Let us pause and remember the parts these men and women have played in helping keep America the home of the free and the land of the brave. Stowe veterans and residents have played strong roles in defending our country throughout its history. Since the Revolutionary War, Stowe's patriotism has run deep. Fearing a British move to seize arms from Concord before the war began, Stowe played a key role in storing arms and cannons to avoid capture, as well as having men of its citizens volunteer to fight in the companies of Minutemen. This patriotism has continued to run deep, hosting veterans from many different conflicts all the way up to today. When you enlist, you assume a responsibility few of us can imagine. But I also know that when soldiers come back from war, part of the war comes back with them. We owe our veterans support and let no one ever question what they're worth. These men and women served us and our country and deserve our utmost respect and quality of care. I had the honor on Saturday morning to speaking at the Ayer Veterans Day commemoration and was pleased to announce representing that area, including the former Fort Devens military base, that the Clear Path for Veterans New England nonprofit after 4 years, has fully renovated bungalows and row houses at Devon's that are going to provide housing for homeless veterans beginning next month. Veterans from our cities and towns will never be forgotten as long as we continue to share their stories. Groups like the Collings Foundation, headquartered here in Stow, and the American Heritage Foundation, Heritage Museum have done a great work in honoring and respecting veterans. They have organized and supported events that showcase American veterans' living history with rare historical artifacts. We also recognize Stow's veterans' history through artifacts like the Washington Guards flag, presented in 1823 to the Stow Company of the Washington Guards, carried throughout local history for veteran celebrations, and refurbished in 1964 by caring community members. The flag still honors our veterans today, where it hangs in Town Hall and previously hung in the Randall Library. Even as veterans ended their enlisted service, their service to the community often does not end. People like Colonel Martha Monroe, an Air Force veteran, have continued to give back by serving on the Veterans Graves Committee and leading, along with Scouting America, in the refreshing of flags at veterans' graves. I'm grateful that our communities have made sure of that, as we have dedicated street signs, corners, and plaques to homeless vets who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Once again, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans and their families, and to those currently serving. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with you each year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Jamie Eldridge. And at this point, without further ado, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Rosario M.F. Rizzo of Stow, Massachusetts. So just a little bit about Lieutenant Colonel Rizzo. He earned a Bachelor's of Arts in Government from Harvard University, followed by a JD from Boston College Law. Go Eagles! I'm an Eagle. Law School, and later a Master of Public Health with a major in health law from Boston University School of Public Health. He served our nation for 24 years as part of the U.S. Air Force, Judge Advocate General's Corps, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. He had 8 years of active duties stationed at Little Rock Air Force Base and Hanscom Air Force Base, followed by 16 years in the Air Force Reserves at Maxwell Gunter Air Force Base in Alabama and the Air Force Research Lab in Rome, New York. His military education at university included the Judge Advocate General School, Squadron Officer School, Air Command and Staff College, and Air War College. After retiring from the military, Lieutenant Colonel Rizzo opened a private law practice in Concord, Massachusetts, where he advises individuals and small businesses, and also representing clients across Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and beyond. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Rizzo.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, you notice I'm Italian, I'm an immigrant. It may be a little difficult for me to talk because, we need our hands, and I have to hold this. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Stow Police and Fire. 7 months ago, tomorrow, also allergies. I almost lost a battle with norovirus, and after 4 hours of being knocked out, I was brought to Emerson by our fire and police. So I'm very thankful that I'm actually here. So that means we have lived in Stow now 34 years, and that was because when we came to Massachusetts, both of us grew up in Massachusetts, my wife and I got stationed in Hanscom, and she took a job at Fort Devens, and Stowe was right in between, which worked pretty well. Although I had a bit worse commute having to deal with Route 2. So what I like to do today is hopefully give you an idea of what it's like to be a JAG in the Air Force, and to some extent the rest of the services. First of all, is there anyone here who's ever been a JAG or worked in a military legal office? I got one. Okay, we've got a couple of fact checkers in. Okay, gotta watch out then. And I'll try to. I guess the best way to do this is to take you through my own career, what I've done, and what it was like, and give you some examples of what life was like. Now, first of all, it was the Cold War. So, 86 is when I joined. I got out of law school in 81. Had an offer from the Army. Then I met my wife, who was being put through medical school by the Air Force. So I decided to wait for her. And so then I joined, and I ended up with her at Little Rock Air Force Base. The interesting thing about Little Rock Air Force Base is it's an operational base. And that means that we are an actual power of the war-fighting power of the United States Air Force, although we are what we call trash haulers. It's the largest tactical airlift wing in the world. At one time, we had like 85 C-130s, and we also had KC-135 guard tankers, and for a few years, the remnants of the Titan IV nuclear missile force was there. So we had a lot of things happening. Any base is like a small town, and one like Little Rock especially, so we had like 6,000 military. We had a couple thousand civilians and their families and all. So you have every service that you would find in a small town like Stowe. And just like Stowe, we had our Stowe 5-0 moments. Here you have squirrels and chipmunks and the occasional bear. There we had rattlesnakes, which we usually just terminated where they were found. And we had a herd of deer that had figured out whenever deer hunting season came along, the best place to be was just inside the tree line near runways, because there was no shooting there. And they'd show up every year, and then they'd go away. So, again, Stowe 5-0 moments. But the real thing that we do is provide the legal services for the base, and they vary. They go from simple legal assistance to the servicemen who are there. Did they need a will, a power of attorney, advice on legal matters, and way too many divorces that we had to discuss with people. But then there's another civilian side of it, which just like a business, we have things going on in our little world there. So we have construction projects, we have things that are necessary to keep the base running. So we have a contract law function, and then there's claims, which we hit things hit us, we lose things as long as we didn't move. So for a while you had to be claims officer, which was an interesting job in itself, as I had half of the office staff, and a small budget of like a little $400,000 that we could spend without any further approval. And so we lose a lot of things when we were moving. And we do get hit once in a while. We had accidents that we had to take care of and all. But then there's the other side of the claims was hospital attorney. So I got to be hospital attorney there. And for basically for 4 years, because of my public health background, got to do a lot of work with medical malpractice cases and a number of medical ethics issues. So from a training standpoint, it was very, very interesting as a young attorney, because we got to do a lot of varied aspects of law. But the number one thing we did was we were the prosecution. Everyone in the office was a prosecutor. So we had to keep all your veterans remember the idea of good order and discipline. And we were a relatively busy base, being an operational base. It's in a microcosm of the world as it is outside, especially in the operational side, because you have a lot of people who come from high school, some from college, different backgrounds, and you have many, many issues. So to give you an idea of a couple of things we did, we had our share of sexual assault cases and things which we had to handle. I think I had the record of the fastest court-martial in any known history, at least in our area, because at one barracks, Steve, he totally nondescript person. The entire thing took 20 minutes in and out. But the biggest things we had initially when I got there was a drug problem throughout the service. Any of you have served in the Vietnam era? I know you guys had a big drug issues in those days. In the early 80s, the DOD decided that they were going to crack down on it, and we were part of that too. A lot of that was done by inspections, where you could do urinalyses and all that. But we had our bigger people. One guy who I ended up trying was our drug dealer of the base. He was pretty active. We had ended up with getting him through a undercover operation with the Office of Special Investigations, our NCIS, and they went and befriended him, had a civilian supposedly come in and befriend him, and this guy was dealing drugs during the day. He actually more volunteered. He went down a number of times to the downtown Little Rock, picked up drugs during the workday, and he delivered them during the workday. And there was another minor ring that worked with him. And to give you an extent of how in-depth this guy was with the local drug dealers, he offered our undercover agent to actually give him $10,000 worth of cocaine and heroin if he would just come up with the money. We didn't do that. We just ended the operation and took care of it. He was facing, at one point, 154 years in Leavenworth, which actually kind of focused the mind a little bit. And he didn't realize it's probably not a bad idea to just plead guilty and then we go through the penalty phase. In part of pleading guilty and making him much more of a nicer person, he helped the locals wrap up the whole drug ring. So he put his life on the line a little bit. And it was, to give you another idea of how difficult this case was, we also had to have witnesses taken to other bases for their own personal protection, because it was a very violent bunch of people that were out there. So we got a couple of years of it. And as the years went on, the drug problem went away. We had so many cases that the word kind of got out. It's not a good place to be in the Air Force and using drugs or in the military in general. So about 6 years later, when I was at Hanscom, and we're looking at the various records of what court martials are doing and what areas were court marshaling, drugs were almost gone in the categories that we did. So it was very, very interesting how enforcing the law actually helped. I guess one other thing that I guess I tell you is that it's a varied work at an operational base. I actually went out on 3 aircraft accident investigations, and 2 of them, unfortunately, were fatal. These planes make big holes when they hit the ground. We had an A-7, it's a fighter jet, was testing what was then a classified nap of the earth flying system, and it didn't work. And it went right to the side of a mountain and blew up most of the mountain. Another time we lost a C-130. It was doing touch and goes out in Mississippi, and as they were coming down to touch down the runway and get up, they kept doing it as a practice, and you do many of them at a time. He went too low, tipped a wing, and blew up. So 7 people died there. The good part of it was that we had a farmer out at the edge of the runway in his farm, literally plowing his fields. And when I got there, and we had to go out to talk to the farmer, And he shows me, this is where I was, this is where my tractor is. He had his back to the runway. The plane blew up. He turned around, saw a fireball coming at him, jumped off the tractor, and started running like crazy. And so I went and paced it off. The fireball ended 20 paces from his tractor. He was that close. But so I was very happy to see me, being able to see me at the time. Plus, we bought his soybean farm at that year, so because we contaminated everything, and we had to dig up all the dirt. And of course, soybeans were the highest they'd ever been that year in the Arkansas area. So yeah, that's life. Part of the aircraft accident investigation process, for me at least, was to learn how to put together people afterwards. As a result of, maybe many of you remember it, Arrow Air, where a charter plane taking 101st Airborne soldiers back from the Middle East crashed in Labrador. 250 some odd people died, and there was a lot of pieces and all that. So the Air Force decided that we're going to create a course to teach people how to basically put pieces back together using dental records and all, and I got volunteered for it by my boss. He thought it would be a good thing for me to do, which sounded good. And then at the end, they said, "Oh, by the way, you're all on a list now that if we have a need for that, we're going to call you." Oh, that was nice. Thank you, told me that. But as I say, Little Rock was an interesting place because of that. And it was also, when I look back on the service, was that how real it suddenly became. Going back to our initial training school, a couple of weeks, learning how to wear a uniform so you don't embarrass yourself when you get to your base. While we were there, we had the attack on Libya in '86 in response to the bombing in Berlin. So that was our introduction to the Air Force. Within the next few years, just at Little Rock alone, we had there was the tanker war in Iraq and Iran, when we had to protect the tankers, and we had, of course, sent people out that way. Then we had Panama. Then we had, and then it got to Hanscom, and then we ended up like always something going on. Gulf War, Bosnia, Kosovo, September 11th, and then Iraq, Afghanistan, all that. So it was a very eventful time, and it's a time when you start thinking that I'm like a tourist history here. I'm sitting back here, and so all this is happening around me, but I'm a JAG, so we don't really get that involved, but we do. Years ago, they used to say that you could fight a war without JAGs, and people say that didn't really understand. The JAG Corps, starting with the Army, was established in 1775 by George Washington, because it was the way the British did it. So we did the same thing. And as a result, what we do is we provide all these different services, and we get to Hanscom now. Now I get to a different world. And here's one of the biggest services that the JAG Corps really provides, is getting the government contracting system working and protecting it. Hanscom, to give you an idea where it was, and maybe a lot of people don't realize it, small base. It's an office park, to be honest about it. You go there, not as small as the one I was at Maxwell Gunter, where you could stand at one gate and you could see the other gate. But at the time I got there, about 4,400 people total between military and civilian. We were the third largest employer in the state by economic impact. We were bringing like $9 billion into the state. Because that we're at the end of the Reagan defense buildup, very, very big operations of what we were doing there. Only entities bigger than us were Wang and Digital at the time. So it's a very important thing, because the way I like to think about it is we were, you get the pointy part of the spear. We're the part that keeps it sharp, giving you the tools that you need. And it's electronic systems there. So one of the big things we did was AWACS. We had Joint Stars, which is basically a radar that was ground looking aimed down the ground, kind of like an AWACS for ground, and was very, very influential in the Gulf War at the time when we got there. But within the government contracting field, you were dealing with two areas, the way I like to put it. One is getting the contracts done, making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and all that. And then there's the one that I got more involved in and spent most of my reserve years in it too, was the fraud area. Now, hard to believe, but people actually like to steal from the government. It's an old American tradition. Civil War was one of the worst times ever. And as a result of the Civil War fraud, the Congress passed the False Claims Act, which, among other things, criminalizing fraud, was it has a little feature that if someone is a whistleblower, they can get up to 25% of what the government recovers. And a great part about it, having had a case on the civilian side like this, is that once you get all the information done, what happens is the government does the work for you. They prosecute, and then you get the money, and then they give you the money back. You argue a little bit about the percentage, but it works. So I had one of those. Unfortunately, I can't tell you anything about it because it's sealed. It was highly classified, but my client couldn't put up with what was going on, and we told the government what was happening. So it's an incredible thing when you think about it, that people work so hard to try and steal, and for little amounts. And I'll give you a couple of examples here. Where it really became very evident in modern times is around 1987. I remember an Operation Ill Wind. It was a massive investigation into government fraud. It started when they had actually NIS at the time had a wiretap on some defense contractor, and then suddenly realized that the person on the other side of the wiretap was the Undersecretary of the Navy. And then we had an Undersecretary of the Air Force suddenly show up. The level of fraud was incredible. There were companies like Unisys, Sperry, and all which were involved in this massive operation. And the government went after them and then changed a lot of the focus. Even at Little Rock, our special investigations people were being trained in contract law, so they could see it. My first example of this personally was when I got to Hanscom. We had a little piece of it. There was a company called Magnavox. Have you heard of them? They had won a contract with the Air Force for radios for the security police. It's not a small contract because we got a lot of security police. And what the investigation found was that there was a support contractor who was supposedly helping us, who was actually being paid by Magnavox to steal documents. And he took, if I remember right, $2,000 and a plow for his John Deere tractor. And for that he went to jail. But the interesting part about it was we get to the point, okay, Magnavox is going to plead guilty, going to have a hearing in Boston. The U.S. Attorney calls it, can you prepare your contracting officer to come and talk to us? I said, sure. So I called the guy over, and he kind of knew what was going on, but didn't really understand all of it. So I was sitting at the conference room, and I go in my office, and I get the file. About this big. Okay. Almost about 2 feet of documents, and I just plop it on the table. And you hear people, their jaws drop. His jaw dropped. You couldn't believe it. He looks through it, they had every single piece of paper that we had. This is no wonder they won. But so that ended that. But people go to incredible lengths. I had another one, which I worked with our Office of Special Investigations. Our contracting officer was brand new on this contract and said, this is a computer contract, but the prices never go down. Every time I read about computer prices, everything goes down. You're getting more bang for your buck, but we're not. And so we started looking into it. And I suggested to our special investigators that go get the statements from the vendors to this company that's providing us the stuff, and look at them. And of course, the numbers on the statements were different. What they had done, and this is an amazing thing. You remember the days of the IBM selected typewriters? This is what everyone was using at the time. Well, these guys would take a statement from a vendor, white out the numbers, and put in higher numbers. Now, in order to see this correctly and not be found out, you have to keep copying it until the whiteout doesn't show anymore. And they kept doing this and doing this. Now, this group was the largest small business in the country at the time. And it had been started by a couple of captains who left the Air Force from Hanscom. So they knew where a vulnerability was. So, but we figured it out, and ultimately put them out of business. They didn't. U.S. Attorney's Office didn't prosecute them, but they went from a $400 million company to nothing. But you can think about how you take the time to take hundreds and hundreds of statements and change the numbers so that you can make a little bit more. And it adds up. Suddenly it becomes $1 million or $2 million, $3 million. It's like the old story about the guy who's the king wants to reward, and the king says, "What can I do for you?" "Well, take a chessboard and put a grain of rice on each one and double it all the way through." After a while, the kingdom was bankrupt. So these are the levels people go to. There are other issues that we've had, actually within our own service. People just kind of aggrandizing themselves, using funds improperly. It is something that keeps people in our world very, very busy, because on an average, over the 4 years I was at active duty at Hanscom doing this work, I'd say we had about 18 cases at any one time going actively. Some worked, some didn't, but it was rewarding in that respect, because at least you felt you did something. So at the end of my active duty tour at Hanscom, and as they were doing the medal for me, which I always like to call the good riddance medal, because you get them in just about the time you leave, actually after you leave, they figured out that I'd been involved in saving the government up like $154 million in 4 years, and that was a drop in the bucket of what everyone else was doing. So that's generally speaking what we do is active duty. It's a varied area. Well, I'll do the best I can. Let me tell you what I guess the interesting thing about being a JAG is that you are part of the service, and it is an area of the service which is different in one major respect. You don't always get the respect you expect. Many people just don't see what we do for the service, and there are others, over the years who start to say that we're in the way, and I can see where they come from, but a lot of that is what the government wants, what people want us to be able to do. One of the big changes, which I haven't personally gotten involved in, but I know it happened, is that now communications are great, and as we've seen in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, judge advocates are much more involved in the planning and sometimes even the actual momentary operations that warfighters are doing. It ruined my great line when I was teaching people about the law of armed conflict. I would always tell them, look, you need to really listen to me, because when you're out there fighting, you can't give me a phone call and ask me what to do here. Well, now they can, and they do. So that changes a lot of the perspective, because we're people who say no, and we do our best with it. So I guess I'll leave it at that point. It was been a good 24 years. We did many, many things. Went from the Cold War to the War on Terror, and in the meantime, found a home here in Stow, and we're very happy to be here. So let me leave it as anybody has any questions, we're happy to take them. If not, as my litigation teacher told us in the first year in law school, the key to good litigation is to be clear, be concise, and be gone.
A big round of applause for Jag Rizzo. Thank you so much. And thank you for your service. It certainly can be hard to hold each other accountable, not to mention holding others accountable in such a fraternity. So again, thank you for highlighting military sexual trauma. Thank you for highlighting substance use and mental health, as well as everything else. And we can't even imagine what you guys endure when you go through what you go through. The good news is there is help. There is help out there, I can tell you that. I worked in the VA, Boston Healthcare System, as an attending clinician, and there's so many services and help that you can use. So thank you. As we're coming to a close of our ceremonies, I will also ask the honor guard to please retire the colors. We can get seated. It has been an honor and my pleasure hosting this event today. I've really enjoyed getting to know all of you and interacting with you. I hope that the spirit of fellowship and community, taking care of each other, continues beyond these walls. Absolutely. And now that we conclude the program, I'm going to ask all the veterans to make their way to the hanging military branch flags for a group photo. And that's it. Thank you all for attending.